Are you planning a trip to DC soon? Perhaps you're coming out here for a work event, like a Washington convention, or because you're moving to DC or the Virginia suburb. Well, before you plan that DC travel, listen closely to this video and be sure to watch it all the way through to get the skinny on what it's like getting around Washington, DC. Stay tuned because we are getting started right now. First things first, a little bit of a language lesson on a local lingo. The Capital Beltway, or just the Beltway, is 495. It's called that because it's wrapped like a giant belt around the city, and it has both an inner loop and an outer loop. So if you're in, say, Falls Church, Virginia, and you need to go up to Silver Spring, Maryland, you're going to travel in a clockwise motion. So you will be on the inner loop on the way there and on the outer loop on the return trip, because that's going counterclockwise. The mixing bowl. If you hear the term the mixing bowl, that's in reference to the Springfield interchange. The toll road is 267, one of Virginia's toll roads. It takes you out to Tyson's and Reston and out to the Dulles Airport. If you want to continue beyond onto Leesburg, then you're on the Dulles Greenway Toll Road. It's a 14-mile stretch of privately owned toll road that stretches from Dulles out to Leesburg, Virginia. The Spur. The Spur is Interstate 270 up in Maryland. If you're staying in Virginia, you shouldn't have to worry too much about it, but it's another term that you'll hear on the news and on the local radio. DMV. The DMV naturally stands for DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Delmarva. Delmarva is the Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia Peninsula. And there you have it. Now you have a sense of the local lingo and what these words and terms mean when you hear them on the local news and the radio stations. Okay, second, let's talk about the rules of the road. Please stay to the right when you are on escalators, when you are on the road, especially on the escalators, because believe it or not, people do run up the escalator, and so you stand to the right so people can pass you on the left. The same goes for the road. No one around here drives the speed limit. I mean, I'm sure that that's probably the case in a lot of places around America, but I would say that around here, most people are driving at least 10 miles over the posted speed limit. And unless you want to get some angry glares and honking horns, you should be prepared to do the same. Now, I'm not encouraging you to break the law per se, but I am just saying that you should take your cues from the surrounding traffic and move with the flow of traffic. So in many cases, that's going to be above the speed limit for your own safety and the safety of other people around you as well. Do be aware that DC has a rush hour that is generally between about 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. and then 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Though there is an uptick in congestion starting around 2 or 3 p.m. for those people who work a compressed work schedule. Some heavily used routes like 66 and 7 are going to be busy almost all the time, just in different variations of what busy looks like. And then the bridges that cross over the river and into DC get very backed up quickly as well. So just be prepared to understand that that's what you're going to encounter. It's just a matter of setting expectations so you're not thinking, oh, it's just 2.2 miles across the river to get into DC, I can be there in a flash. No, that's not going to happen probably. Also, some routes have lanes that are blocked off or opened up depending on the time of the day to better facilitate the traffic flow, the majority of the traffic flow that is headed in a given direction at that point of the day. DC is one of those areas where you just have to be a hyper alert driver. Unless you really have to go out first thing, I would encourage you to try not to get out early with the rush hour traffic. Just give it some time to die down, and then you can go out and do your sightseeing and take care of business getting around DC. Now, as I mentioned before, depending on where you're from and what traffic you're used to back home, you may have to reorient your thinking as to commute times here in DC. For instance, going 12 miles in Texas can take you about 10 minutes. Going 12 miles here in DC and the greater DC area, it can take an hour or more sometimes. So just plan your DC commute accordingly, especially if you're coming from further out, and get an even earlier start than 7 a.m. if you are coming from further out to avoid more of the mess. For that matter, you don't even really need a car getting around in the DC area. You can easily get an Uber or a Lyft ride. They even have those bike kiosks and even the electric scooters now that you can rent and pick up from one point and leave at another point. If you are staying a little bit longer and you want to get a taste of what it's like to live like a local during your stay, you can utilize the vast DC public transportation and Virginia public transportation, including the Metro Rail subway, the VRE train, the circulator bus, the Arlington Transit bus, we also call that ART, the Dash bus, and even the free Old Town Alexandria trolley that runs from the waterfront in Old Town Alexandria all the way up to the King Street Metro. And if you're in the DC area because you're considering a move to DC, you'll really benefit from having a realtor take you around in their car anyway, because they're gonna have a better sense of what to show you and a good feel for places that you'll want to see during your visit. They can provide a greater context for your decision as well, and be there to be a resource for you to bounce questions off of and really get that inside insight. Also, regardless of whether you choose to drive yourself or not, you're going to want to have a pretty good handle on how to navigate those DC streets. It's basically a grid overlaid with diagonals. The numbered streets run north-south, and the lettered streets run east-west. The diagonals are often named after states in the Union. Now, what I'm about to say is very important. Are you listening? DC is divided into quadrants from the Capitol building, the US Capitol building, and Constitution Avenue. This is important because it could have a huge impact on getting you where you need to be on time. You don't want to tell your Uber driver to take you to your morning presentation to a group of investors at, say, 14th and H Street Northeast when you were actually supposed to go to 14th and H Northwest. Now you're going to be upset because you're going to be late, and you're going to have to catch another Uber and still deal with the rush hour traffic to get you across town, and it's just going to be one big mess. Don't be the guy that blows the deal because you've confused your DC quadrants and you didn't check. So check that street address in Washington, DC to make sure you have your quadrant right before you head out, to make sure you're going to the right place. I hope you found this video helpful. In fact, I'd love to hear what you found the most valuable in this video or what you learned. So drop me a quick comment below. And if you'd like to learn more about the greater DC area and the Northern Virginia suburbs, because you are planning to move out here, check out my other videos in my channel. Also hit the subscribe button and the bell so you're notified every time that I make a new video. That's it for this week. Once again, I'm Stephanie Vitkiss with Keller Williams, and I will see you next week.